Today's agenda demo the recent Cypress. So Revant who's gonna demo the recent Cypress integration testing frame, and also Tommy who will show the progress on the add to cart functionality from the wish list. So with that, I hand over to Revant to do the Cypress demo.
Thanks, Kavita. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to be demoing the Cypress visual testing plugin, the full page snapshot testing that we have integrated recently. And I would like to also go over the issues we have faced and the way we have fixed them. So maybe it can help you. Let me start by sharing screen. I hope you guys can see the screen. Let me enlarge the thing. I guess like we already went over what Cypress is and what we are trying to achieve with Cypress. Today, I would like to go over a sample test of how we are using snapshot testing, the image snapshot testing with Cypress, and the issues we went over. So here I have a sample test, which is gonna check if the page builder homepage has loaded up properly or not. For now, all I do is I create a test. I set the viewport to 800 by 500. You can set it to whatever you want. I'm just waiting for 500 milliseconds, for the page to load. I hope and I wish there was a better way, instead of waiting for a arbitrary time, like if we can wait for something to be in the viewport, we are already looking into that. And then we are visiting the homepage. We again wait for 3000 milliseconds. At this point, the page is actually being loaded. Here, the viewport is being set. Then we have added a couple new commands. The load full page command, all it does is it's going to scroll through the whole page, because in PWA Studio, because of performance benefits, we have enabled lazy loading of images. And if you don't load the whole page, if you don't scroll through the whole thing before taking a snapshot, you would see empty spaces, like just grayed out images. There won't be any image loaded. So we load through the page, and at that point, it's like a promise. And then once it is done, we would capture the whole page. So this load full page and capture full page screenshot, these are the two commands that we have added. And there are a bunch of options that this guy takes. For example, at the moment, I'm giving a name to it. So when the snapshot is recorded, this is the name it's going to be used for that particular snapshot. And this is very similar to how it's done in Jest, except that in Jest it's JSON or some kind of a Jest related file type for the snapshots, but here it's like PNG images. Let's look at that in action. Let me increase the size. Okay, I'm in the Venia integration tests folder on develop at the moment. And when we do yarn test, it's going to run the Cypress CLI utility. So here we have a list of all the tests that are part of this particular project. We are looking at the homepage spec. So when I click this, it's going to load up the Chrome browser. And now it's going to go through all the steps. You can see that it is waiting. And then now it is scrolling through the whole page, waiting for 1 second before scrolling to the next viewport. And now it is done loading up the whole page. At this moment, it's actually capturing the image. Wonderful. So it has loaded the whole page. You can actually see through the actions here. So it loaded the viewport, it waited for a while, and then it scrolled through the whole thing. And here it took the screenshot and it started comparing it. And we can see that it's a green tick, which is saying that the image has been compared against what it was in the repository, and these two are fine. So we can see that the test has passed. You can go over and like run the other tests as well. We have one more called the filter model. This is another example where we are taking a snapshot of just one viewport instead of the whole page. So here we are loading up the category page. Then we are trying to look for the filter button. It's going to miss it at the moment because this test is for a different um, uh, branch. But then you can see that it says where it has failed. It says like I'm unable to get the filter button because this test is for a different um, uh, a branch, not the develop branch itself. This I just added this for an example just to show how it's done. And that's how we take the snapshots, and you can actually look through the snapshots. So here you have category page, and this is the snapshot it took. You can see that it's a 800 by 4829 image, and it's a PNG. And if let's say you end up with a diff output, like let's say this image that you have stored in your browser, sorry, in your project is different from the one that you have recorded right now when you run the Cypress test, uh, it goes into the diff output folder, and it's only going to show you the difference between the one that the one that is expected and the one that's actual. Right now, since the images are same, you don't see any diff output. But if it does, you can actually, it comes into this particular folder. I hope we have it. No, never mind. Okay. Coming to the commands themselves, the load full page and the capture full page. Here we have them. These are part of the support folder. And here we have list of all the commands. At the moment, we only have two commands, but moving forward in other branches, we have started adding other commands. That's going to make testing easier. In the load full page, all it does, it's going to load up the document, and then it's going to get scroll height, client height, and then it's basically a for loop of scroll to and like wait for a certain time. So that's all it is going to do. It's pretty basic. But the magic is actually in the full page screenshot command. So this guy is the command that's going to actually take the full page screenshot. Uh, the problem we had firstly was when you look at, um, let me load up, develop. It's easy. Right. So when you scroll, you can see that the app bar on the top, it doesn't scroll, like it stays there. That's how it is built. But the problem is when you're taking a screenshot, you don't want it to hanging around in every page scroll, every viewport. So we had to first get the header, the div of that particular header, and we're trying to change the style of it to static. Then we are going to go through the whole image snapshot thing. And then when the test is done, we again change it back to sticky, however it is. So that's one thing we had to do. And the match image snapshot function is the one that we had to change a little bit. The problem we had was when we were testing it against like a MacBook Pro, which has a higher DPI, device pixel ratio. I don't know what it is, but yeah, so which has a different DPI compared to like a 4K monitor, and compared to a 2K monitor, the color reproduction was a little different, and also the size of images was different because 2 pixels on a 1 DPI machine is different from is equal to basically 1 pixel on a 4 DPI kind of a machine. So we had to, change a little bit on that. That's actually done in the plugins folder. That's where we have this Resize snapshot plugin. So basically, this guy is only gonna take the snapshot. It's gonna check the DPI values, and it's gonna adjust those details and um, basically resize the image, write it back, like basically take the image, read that image, resize it, and write it back again into this image. Basically, you're overriding it. And or you do that basically with the width and the pixel ratio of that image. So all in all, I wish Cypress did all these things instead of asking us to do it. it was pretty hard at first to get the idea of how to do this. But I'm hoping that Cypress one day is going to change this snapshot testing to DPI irrespective and color reproduction irrespective, because each screen has a different reproduction style. Like Samsungs are like very saturated, Apple's are a little different, maybe HP is a little different, Dell is different. So other than that, if you guys are using Cypress and you ended up with similar issues, you can always find how you want to do this. And the clue is always in the Resize plugin and the full snapshot command. The reason why we moved to Cypress and everything is it's similar to MFTF. And if most of you don't know, it's Magento Functional Testing Framework. And it's when someone is contributing to our code base, it's open source. If someone is contributing, since MFTF is not open right now, it's on us, and we are adding the MFTF tests. But now with Cypress, there is extensive documentation, and it's open, just like our code base. So you guys can add the tests. Right now, it is not that mature, but it's a promise that we'll be doing it. We'll doing a much better job. For instance, they've created this branch, and you can see that there are way more commands, like route commands, for instance. So all you have to do is just do cy.visit checkout page, and it's going to take you to the checkout page. The commands that we are adding, they're just going to make your life a little easier when you're writing tests. Any questions, anyone? I've been talking. And I'm sorry if that was fast. Apologies for that.
Thanks, Ravant.
Thanks, Elena.
And just to add on what Ravant was saying, this is something that we're going to release with the next PWA release, hopefully in like a month or so. But keep taking a look on that, and yeah, there's something that we expect you guys to help us to contribute to as well. So the next thing on our agenda is the wish list. So I take over to Tommy to demo their new added functionality of moving the products from the wish list to the cart.
Awesome. Thank you, Elena. And good luck with the recovery from your second shot.
Thank you.
All right. So without further ado, I'm getting some feedbacks from somebody, maybe you, Elena, if you can mute, please. I'm working on hopefully one of the last few features related to wishlist as we round out that epic. This one in particular is being able to add to your cart from the wish list. If anybody's been kind of doing a sneak peek, this has been available for a little while, but it only worked with maybe simple products. It had issues. Either way, it had issues. So we're going to go ahead and work through a lot of those issues in addition to leveraging some new functionality that GraphQL offers us with some of its product queries now. So here's the PR. It's 3170. I think it's made its way through code review, but if you wanted an early sneak peek, this would be where to find it. I'll do a quick demo of the functionality first. So I already have, I'm logged in as a test user. I have various products in my wish list that are completely unconfigured, partially configured, fully configured, and then a simple product. So as you would expect, anything that's fully configured that you want to add to your cart, you just hit add to cart, and there it is. Easy peasy. Simple products, same thing, add it to your cart. And then we get into the more complicated pieces where for something that's unconfigured, we opted for this little kind of dialog pop-up to kind of like a slimmed down version of the product page. So in here, it behaves almost identical to the product page, except for some fun little things related to how we're retrieving live pricing and variant images. And I'll kind of dig into how we do that in a second. So you'll see there every time you kind of switch, we added like a little loading indicator there. We'll serve stuff from the cache immediately, but we kind of want to check with the backend that since you added it to the wish list, that like pricing didn't change, or that it's I don't think we manage stock here. There's a big epic coming up with that. But either way, after you've fully configured, you can go ahead and add that to your cart. Guidance was to leave it in the wish list so we don't automate anything about removing things. And then I think there is a follow-up to go ahead and bring back the ability to remove items from the wish list. That's coming later. And then as you would expect for things that are partially configured, when you open it up, whatever you had pre-selected is pre-selected. And then if you change that selection, if the price was different, you would see that pop up here too. Unfortunately, our sample data has everything is the same price. So add to cart, adds to the cart, error detection if something goes wrong, and just kind of displays it to you in the view. So that is the demo portion. I'm gonna try not to get like too technical here, but one of the very cool things that we do here that differs from the product page, and I think probably everywhere else we've ever done this, is previously to figure out what selected variant you had, we would take your options and then we'd go through the entire array of possible variants and kind of say like, okay, we're lilac medium. I'm going to scan through all 1,000 of these variants to find what I'm looking for. But GraphQL added an option so we don't have to do that anymore. So they moved over to this concept of like configurable option UIDs. So when you are when you want to filter a product by like the options that you've selected, you provide that in your query here. So you just provide an array of value IDs. And these value IDs are unique, so that's all it needs to know. It doesn't need to know the attribute. It doesn't need to know any other detail. It's just a simple array of value IDs, and then it can determine what those values map to. When you do that, then it has the ability to pass you like specific media gallery entries and the current variant that you're on if it's fully configured, which will give you kind of, right now we're using like price range. This also has the ability to give you additional detail about kind of the available options that are selected that we will also fully support in a later story. But it was pretty cool that with that new piece of functionality, I can kind of make a selected options array that I feed to this query here. And then the data that I get back from this query allows me to set kind of current image. So if I selected pink, I would want to see the pink dress, blue dress. And then in addition to that, even though our sample data doesn't support it, if those variants had different prices, that would also update based on the currently selected item. I don't think that happens in the product view, maybe in the product edit view. But anyways, this was a lot of fun being able to leverage some of those new endpoints. It's the edge case this solves isn't really a big deal if you have like a couple configurable options, but once we get into B2B land where like there's probably going to be 10 configurable options, maybe 1,000 plus variants, you can imagine like manually going through those variants just to pick out the one that you're currently selected, isn't ideal. So unloading that onto the server for a quick round trip is kind of a trade-off there, but probably better than retrieving 1,000 variants of data that you may or may not need. So that's it for the demo. Any questions, comments?
Yeah, one or two. That's looking pretty cool. It looks like you've built the dialogue as a standalone component. So can I assume we'd be able to reuse that from like a category or product listing page?
Yes, yeah. That was the intention was to try to reuse I think in the cart page, there's like an edit functionality, but it was kind of tied to all the old. We have this thing. So I attempted to reuse this, but it was really coupled with kind of the old way of combing through the variants to get that, to pull that data out. So this is a new component, and the intention is that it can be used on a category page, and ideally it can also be reapplied here to the edit page, where it can probably accept some sort of on success callback that would go ahead and delete the previous variant that you had in your cart, because you can't edit a configurable product. It's really like adding the new one and deleting the old one. But yeah, that's exactly the intention, and hopefully it goes as smoothly as intended.
Very nice. And it looks like when you load up the dialogue, you've already fetched all the variant information.
No. So on this page, we only have, I could peek at the data really quick. We only grab configurable options, and then we pass those value IDs. So let's take a peek at. So when I select this, you'll see that it initiates a query, and and what I passed to it was just the selected value ID in the SKU, and then the response I get from that in here is, if I am fully configured, it will return me a variant. And then it always kind of returns you media gallery entries that are relevant to that. But you'll see that nowhere in this item that I call is like the list of variants or anything. I kind of just need, I just need the options, the values, and this will be cleaned up too as we kind of progress along this path. Like the more and more we start leveraging UIDs, the easier this is going to get. There's still some coupling tied to our options component that requires the old kind of code and value ID. But once we transition that component over to UIDs, this will all get a lot simpler.
In terms you mentioned like we don't handle currently the stocks, right? So if a product is out of stock, and if I try to add to cart, so currently like that flow is kind of broken or something like.
Yeah. I think we just render the standard form error above this, above the product details here, and it would tell you, yeah, the product is out of stock. I was exploring how simple that would be, and kind of it would require a huge refactor of the selected options component, where the response we get from GraphQL is value UIDs, and it tells you which ones are available for selection. So we would pass that to the options component and say, disable anything you don't find in this list. So that is something that ideally would also be returned from this configurable product options selection. I think there's another field here called like available options, where you can kind of filter down your selected or your available options based on that response. So Yeah, I think we have a lot of stock status, partial stock, out of stock flows that we still don't fully support. That'll be one of them that we can solve here soon.
Okay.
Are there more questions for me? I guess that means no. Thanks, Tommy, for in-depth demo. And again, the wish list is something that we are already wrapping up and plan to include in the next release of the PWA. And we have 2 minutes left for this call. Guys from the community, anything that you want to share, questions in general? Well, in this case, thank you for attending, and I'm wrapping up the call at this point and wish you a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening. Joy, thanks for joining. Bye.
Thanks.
Everyone.